Dr. the Honorable Avinash Ramtol, Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation, Mr. Vimal Gangadin, Chief Executive Officer of Mauritius Telecom, Mr. Vida Senasi, Chief Executive Officer of ALCHE Mauritius and AOU Rwanda, Mrs. Dia Nabab Singh Jetsan, Head of Technology and Digital Transformation, IBL Group, Dr. Stephen Niken, Academic Director at ALCHE Mauritius, CEOs, Managing Directors, Heads and representatives of institutions present, colleagues, students, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good afternoon. I'm Jerome Alphonse, Student Professional Development Lead at the African Leadership College of Higher Education. It is my great pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this panel discussion on technology, AI, and Africa's innovation leap. We appreciate you taking the time off of your busy schedules today to join us. A very special welcome as well to those of you joining us online. Thank you for being part of this event wherever you are in the world. This year marks 10 years of ALCHE's journey, a decade of learning, leadership, and impact. It is therefore fitting that leading up to our decennial celebration, we not only look back on our journey, but we also take the opportunity to look forward. Exploring the theme Technology, AI, and Africa's Innovation Leap, this theme captures not only the global shifts shaping our time, but also Africa's bold and unique position and opportunity to be authors of a new chapter in this beautiful book of innovation. Before we proceed, I kindly ask everyone to put your phones on silent so we may give our full attention to the panel and the speakers. And now to officially open this afternoon's program, it is my pleasure to invite the CEO of ALCHE Mauritius, Mr. Vida Senasi, to deliver the welcoming remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, yeah, it's so nice. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us this afternoon. I love it when there's someone who begins to inform me and who does all the protocols. So, Honorable Minister, with your permission, can I just say all protocols observed? We'll get straight into the matter because I just want to set the tone for what I hope will be a casual but a very critical conversation, right? And the reason we are gathered here this afternoon, people, as Jerome mentioned, is we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. And you don't see a cake for us to cut because that party is going to happen at the end of this month. But the reason we came to Mauritius 10 years ago was because we saw a need to imagine and reimagine a different way of doing education and of doing higher education, because the traditional path was just not leading us to train enough leaders and entrepreneurs that were going to truly transform the continent. And I say continent here, and I'm obviously talking about the African continent. If that was not clear, it's in our name. We are the African Leadership University. We are here to serve the continent of Africa, which includes the beautiful island of Mauritius. Sometimes some of us forget that, it does. We are here to train leaders and entrepreneurs. Why is that important? Because right now, while we sit in this room at this beautiful campus, only 9% of young Africans who are eligible to be in higher education are in higher education, right? 9%. And yet we are also talking about the youngest continent in the entire world. I was having a meeting just before this with the CEO of EDB. Trishila, thank you for joining us. We were discussing how do we increase the number of foreign students in the country, and we were talking about the role that our country has to play in serving and servicing the continent, right, in this journey of transformation. We do need leaders and entrepreneurs because we have too many job seekers in our country and outside of our country as well. We need more people who become job creators. With that in mind, the people we have brought here today, they are not just here randomly. They all have a tie to this institution in some way, shape, or form, right? Dia, thank you for joining us today. And Dia, and I know, Stephen, you're going to read the entire bio later on, but I want to draw the link to the connection to us as an institution. Dia was just reminding me earlier that she's been a partner of our institution since as early as 2016. We had just been here for about a year. So even before we graduated students, you had already started taking them as interns. And today, as we celebrate 10 years, We have IBL as a proud partner, even in with your previous employer, who still remain one of our biggest employers of our students. But why do you guys still come back to us? Maybe you'll tell us a bit more later on, but I'd like to think it's partly because we are training young people with a different kind of mindset, a different way of thinking about problem solving, right? This is your first time to our campus, but I know I've read your bio, you're an entrepreneur, right? And for us, entrepreneurship, job creation is at the very heart of what we do. So today, for me, as some of our students get a chance to hear from you, as we hear from a young leader who is leading one of the largest and most transformative institutions in the country, we'd love to hear your vision, how you want to transform Mauritius Telecom, and what opportunities that means for the rest of us. And obviously, Honorable Minister, you are tied to this institution in so many ways. We had the pleasure of having you here last year at our graduation in Feb, but you've also mentored our students, you've overseen their capstone projects, and I'd like to say that, you know, just like once a teacher, always a teacher, once affiliated with an institution, always affiliated with that higher learning institution. So thank you again for joining us. And we're going to be talking about something very important, yeah? Something that I don't know if many industries have felt the impact of AI as much as we have in education and higher education, right? We've seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? The ugly, we've seen students finding shortcuts, right? Because AI can very easily be seen as just another TikTok, right? How do you get out of not doing your homework? You use AI. But we've also seen what people can do when applied, when used appropriately and effectively. So there is no question that AI is going to play a very integral role in education going forward. And for us, as we are celebrating 10 years, we're looking back and we're thinking, man, 10 years ago when we paused, when we traveled the world and talked to some of the most innovative institutions in the world and asked them, hey, what is the world going to look like in 10 years? And how do we design a learning model for that? I can tell you one thing, not a single one of them mentioned AI. And yet we innovated. But now, as we look back on the last 10 and we start preparing for the next 10, right, we know this is going to be an integral part of it. So for me, today, what we're going to do is part of that reflection of looking back and looking ahead as we get closer to the end of the month when we're going to throw a big party to celebrate 10 years. But with that big party is going to be a 2-day conference as well called the Bold Summit, where we're bringing experts from all over the world. We've got a colleague coming in from DeepMind, Google's AI company, as you know, very ahead of the curve in terms of what we're doing, with a professor coming from Princeton University who's doing some incredible advanced research on AI as well. We've got a Professor Brian Rosenberg coming from Harvard. He's the former president of Macalester College. So we're going to have some real brains in the room who are looking at the transformation of education, of technology, and how that's going to affect education. So today is just a primer for what's going to come over the course of the month. And I couldn't be more thrilled than being joined by the people who are here on the panel. Thank you very much for joining us. And with that, I hand over to you, Stephen, to lead us through a conversation. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Veda.
I hand over to you, George.
No worries. Thank you very much, Veda, for those inspiring words, and again for your leadership, which has been instrumental to the development of these two institutions, ALCHE Mauritius and ALU Rwanda, to get to such an important milestone. As we step into this discussion on technology, AI, and Africa's innovation journey, it's worth remembering that leadership is what creates the conditions for breakthroughs, not only within our institution, but across the continent and the world. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our academic director, Dr. Stephen Nyken, who will be moderating today's panel discussion.
Thank you, Jerome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Stephen Nyken, the Director of Academics here at the institution, moderating what is, as our CEO has rightfully said, a crucial and important conversation to be had about artificial intelligence in Mauritius and across this continent. Before we begin, I would just like to introduce our distinguished panelists. I'll begin with our first panelist, the Honourable Minister of Information Technology, Communications and Innovation, Dr. Avinash Ramtale, a distinguished leader with 28 years of experience in the IT industry across the Middle East and Africa. Over the past decade, he has served as Managing Director for leading IT companies in Mauritius, driving large-scale digital transformation and innovation initiatives. There was an impressive range of qualifications, including a PhD, GC scholarships, LLM in artificial intelligence, LLB honors in digital rights, an MBA, an MSc government scholarship, and BSc earned from prestigious institutions such as the University of Mauritius, the University of Central Lancashire, the University of Bristol, and the University of Pune. He's also Chartered Manager in the UK and Chartered IT Professional in the UK. His doctoral research focused on digitizing government services with specialization in information security, and his legal background includes cyber legislations, making him a qualified mediator and arbitrator. Dr. Ramtahar has lectured part-time for over 15 years, and he was honored as IT Person of the Year by the Chartered Institute for IT Professionals in Mauritius. As a founder of Talentia Mauritius, he delivers pro bono leadership training to young people nationwide. Since 2022, he has served on the political bureau of the Labour Party. Beyond his professional pursuits, he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and an avid football enthusiast. I'm very keen to hear which football team he supports. Manchester. Oh, right, okay. Well, there we go. We are honoured to have the Honourable Minister with us today to share his perspectives. On to our second panelist now, Mr. Vimal Gangadin, Chief Executive Officer of Mauritius Telecom. Mr. Gangadin is an accomplished technological leader with over 20 years of experience driving digital transformations and innovations across global markets. He has a distinguished track record in scaling businesses, optimizing operations, and deploying AI-driven solutions that enhance telecommunication services and infrastructure. He co-founded GlobalSign.in, a Singaporean-based company providing secure digital platforms for governments and enterprises. Served as CEO until April 2025. And as CEO of JevMe, he spearheaded AI innovations such as Snapsight and Spark, and forged strategic partnerships with major telecommunication providers, including Singtel. From 2022 to 25, Mr. Gangadin served as the Honorary Secretary of the Singapore Association of Convention and Exhibition Organisers and Suppliers, the SACEOS, leading national digital innovation initiatives. He was also a board member and trustee of the PCMA in Chicago, blending a unique global perspective as the sole representative from Africa. His leadership has earned international recognition, including being named among Eventech's 50 most influential people in Asia for 2024, receiving the Digital Innovation Award of the Singapore MIC Awards, and he's also been honored with the SACEOS Pioneering Award in 2020 for his creativity and lasting impact on the industry. Now, Mr. Gangadin holds a bachelor's degree in computing from the National University of Singapore, and was appointed CEO of Mauritius Telecom recently in April 2025. And we're delighted to welcome Mr. Gangadin to this panel. And our third panelist is Mrs. Dia Nabab Singh Jetshan, Head of Technology and Digital Transformation at the IBL Group. Mrs. Nabab Singh Jetshan has been leading technology and digital transformation at IBL Group for the past 7 years. She has an information systems engineering degree from Imperial College London and started off as a software developer in a startup company in Mauritius over 20 years ago. She's held various positions in IT, operations, strategy, and project management in banking, telecommunications, insurance, and other financial services, both for local and multinational companies based in Mauritius. During her career, she set up her own consulting company, providing IT advisory services and also IT project management services. And prior to joining IBL, she drove the digital transformation of a Mauritian-based financial group and the implementation of a digital finance product in Kenya. She's the board director of the Lux Collective, the hotel management business group of IBL. She was an independent director of an Africa-focused food security fund, and now sits on the board of several entities of Actis, a global investment firm. She's also an angel investor, a member of Nairobi Business Angel Network for the past 3 years, and recently a mentor to a South African startup on Catapult's Africa Climate Launchpad program. And it's a privilege to have Mrs. Nabab Singh Jetshan with us today. So clearly, we have with us a truly exceptional group of leaders representing government, telecoms, and industry. And with that, we'll dive into our conversation for today. Honourable Minister, if I may begin with you. The former Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Rishi Sunak, recently wrote in The Economist, and he said that America and China are competing to be the first to artificial general intelligence. But there is another AI race taking place, and he calls this the everyday AI race. The deployment and diffusion of technology across the whole of the nation. And he believes that the first countries to achieve this everyday AI will reap huge benefits. You've previously said, Minister, that the AI itself must be an ally of the civil service. The government has earmarked 25 million for the AI innovation programme, 200 million to support ministries in their adoption of artificial intelligence. So in practice, Honourable Minister, what does this mean for how citizens will experience government and government services?
Thank you, Stephen. I can talk for 30 minutes or 3 minutes on this topic. So I'll pick 3 minutes.
Okay.
See, we can have a private sector in a country that is doing very well. But there are so many things that the private sector does that would be dependent on the speed at which the public services are executed, whether it is import permits, export permits, permits for workers who are coming into the country, and verification of goods, services, etc. There are so many dependencies on government services. Therefore, it is critical for us to have a very efficient government service. But I'm not the first person to say that. This has been said for years. And it's more of a journey than a destination. Now, how do we accelerate that journey is a key question. And the answer to that question would be, in today's terms, via AI. Now, artificial intelligence can actually help us accelerate execution of processes. It's undisputed, right? But the question, therefore, now is, how do we get that done? I think it starts really from building the right competencies and the right talent. Plus then, having the right strategy, the right approach for implementing things. I'll tell you where we are today in terms of government. A lot of companies are using collaborative software for interacting. And on top of that collaborative software sits some kind of a chatbot that helps you do your work faster. Now, there is a rather primitive kind of an email system running in government. And that system doesn't allow for any kind of enhanced collaboration, for exchange of ideas, even exchange of documents in a proper manner. We are taking a shift from there. So we are actually diverting from that way of doing things. And we want to have the right tools, and discussions are ongoing for a collaborative software which is AI enabled. And a simple query like, what is the current status of the application of ALU for letting in 5 additional lecturers, right? The work permit. So if we were to find out that response today, it would take around 10 files to move from Port Louis to A-band, then probably back, and then back to A-band. Now, we can't afford this. We just cannot afford this if we are a forward-looking organization, country, right? Therefore, we are implementing an electronic document management system. I mean, it is, yes, we are implementing it now in 2025, right? Many companies would have had it from long time back. And on top of that, we are also bringing in the collaboration software. The discussions are still ongoing. So this is on the one hand, applications that we use, but on the other, we also need to have the right level of expertise for using them. Therefore, me calling AI as the ally of the civil service actually aligns a lot with what I said just now, but we also need to make people aware of what AI is, right from the driver to the head of the organization. But obviously, it will be a different curriculum for each of them. Now, we have 55,000 civil servants. How do we do that within months? So it is, again, undisputable that we need to have an electronic learning management system. And we are also in the process of establishing an electronic learning management system. So first, we have established the Atal Bihari Vajpayee training institute, and that will essentially be the organization that will be running the platform for us to be able to deploy the knowledge around AI. They don't need to know how AI is doing it. They just need to know what AI can do, right? And the environment should allow them to be able to do that. So this is the basic philosophy behind the statement made, Stephen.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. And I'm just making the connection now, of course, to something that is closer to the heart of ALCHE, which is, of course, the education hub. And we can see the benefits of this electronic documentation system that you're speaking of and how that could impact positively institutions such as ours. And of course, these digital services, these government services powered by AI, require a digital backbone. And of course, it's Mauritius Telecom that is the core of this. And Mr. Gungadin, this leads me to my next question, which is how do you see MT's role in enabling the adoption of artificial intelligence, the adoption of services, and if I may go a little bit beyond, positioning Mauritius in the regional AI economy?
Yeah. So first of all, I think we're probably all already convinced in where the world is heading with AI. So I think we've been spending probably the last decade, or especially the past few years, in terms of understanding the potential impact. So I think we're all convinced with that. So Mauritius Telecom has always been an infrastructure company. And that's really the future. So in the context of Mauritius, so we see ourselves really as an enabler. So infrastructure company, so what have we been doing in the past and what do we do now? It's really in the domain of connectivity. So we connect the whole of Mauritius. So then it went beyond the shores of Mauritius, so connecting Mauritius to the world. So specifically to Africa and then to Asia and through that, the rest of the world. So we've been investing in connectivity through undersea cables. So that has been really the core of our business, still is the core of our business. The next era in terms of what we are seeing, this feels like a little bit of like a pivot. I'll say like the time tracking. Pretty hard on that. The next era is really around AI. So we see ourselves being a company that will invest in the infrastructure that's needed to start with in Mauritius to enable AI applications to be run here. So when we run AI applications, so today, like when we're talking about AI, especially with the chatbots, LLMs, so this is really generative AI. And it seems there's only a few companies in the world, and that's already happening, that is controlling where these AI applications are running. And maybe the danger is these will be the companies that will control where these AI applications are running. So I can hardly imagine, like, for example, our own government, 55,000 civil servants, running an AI chatbot that is running on OpenAI servers in US, for a bank for that matter, putting all the data sitting elsewhere. So we see the rise of sovereign data, sovereign AI. So meaning where the whole infrastructure, the whole technology can be run within countries. And that's the direction that many countries are taking. So Europe is pushing hard on that. And I think we are going along this direction as well. So what that will mean is investment in infrastructure. And here we're talking about like data centers. We're talking about what will enable AI applications. That will be GPUs in the data centers, and then obviously the skill sets. So today, we're already, like Mauritius Telecom is already the first company right now implementing GPUs in our data centers. So that's already happening. Today, we have already started investing into that. There's a big crunch in terms of supply globally right now. So we already have a roadmap over the next few years, I would say, in terms of really putting in the CapEx investment so that then other companies then can just can then use what we put in as investment. And from there, our hope is we're able to build an ecosystem here where people are really trained in terms of the infrastructure side of AI, but more importantly, in terms of the usage of AI. So back to what you were saying earlier, I think practical AI is really like one is the building of the whole AI technology, but the next is the countries that will be able to deploy AI solutions, use it, that will also lead. And I think the fact that we're super small here in Mauritius, we're able to deploy AI solutions very fast across many different sectors, many different industries. And that's my hope. And that's what we will be funding in terms of infrastructure, funding in terms of skill sets, enabling the industry. So that hopefully we move faster than many other countries. And then, we export that. We export that where we export that within the region, within our own continent, Africa, to start with.
Thank you, Mr. Gangalin, for your response there.
I took more than 1 minute, by the way. I'm sorry about that.
But it was a very informative more than 1 minute for sure. Mrs. Nawab Singh Chechan, if I may ask you, I was reading the annual report of IBL, as of course I read annual reports quite often in my spare time, and I'm seeing that IBL's growth outside of Mauritius now contributes 51% of its revenue. 54 now, fantastic. And so when I was thinking of this growth, it immediately sprung to mind with the Honourable Minister saying how well the private sector is doing in this space, to think about what role the private sector, and IBL in particular, can play to develop Mauritius as an AI and digital hub serving the wider Indian Ocean region, but also East Africa and beyond.
Yeah, so thank you, Stephen. It's very interesting because in Mauritius, in IBL, we actually use Mauritius as a place where we conduct proof of concepts, we do pilots, and we deploy blueprints. And then we customize these blueprints to scale to the other regions. So we've started doing that 2-3 years ago, and this is a model that's really working for us. So I think we have to position Mauritius like this. Mauritius has a lot of advantages in terms of its location, in terms of we're bilingual, that's very helpful. We have a solid ICT workforce already, and it represents around 6% of the GDP. We have connectivity. We have many submarine cables coming to Mauritius, and I know we're going to invest more. Broadband is, the coverage is very good in Mauritius. We have good legal system, governance, we have a good reputation in terms of governance. So we have all the assets to really position Mauritius like that. And size, actually, because for a long time, being in tech, it was always a frustration for me, the size of Mauritius. You just can't scale solutions beyond a certain size. But it's precisely the advantage that we need to leverage on, positioning Mauritius as this incubator, this test platform where we take it from there and then expand to the other countries.
So what I'm hearing then is a pattern of the size of Mauritius is actually to its advantage, that it can act as a test bed for these types of AI services for future expansion and scaling to the continent and beyond. Do you see any particular use cases, or have you experienced any use cases within the IBL group that you believe could be of benefit to the wider ecosystem?
Yeah, so we are running quite a number of use cases in AI. Some of the use cases are being developed internally. Some of them are solutions that we are onboarding. So one of the solutions that's really applicable to many of our businesses is around demand planning and inventory optimization. Because, a lot of our companies, we actually import or produce and then we sell. So we have to store, we have warehouses, logistics and distribution. So demand planning and inventory optimization is very critical for a lot of our businesses. So what we've done a few months ago is start, again, proof of concept in the retail, piloting and now deploying. And we have a much bigger retail business in Kenya. So we definitely customize, adapt, and then take it to Kenya. And it's applicable to many other businesses that are regional today in our ecosystem. Healthcare operations, brewery, bottling, we are already present in the Indian Ocean. So it's very applicable. Second use case is around customer segmentation. We have a loyalty program with Mauritius, and we're starting to look at customer preferences. We use machine learning algorithms on that. to give the customers personalized offers. And again, in Kenya, they have a huge loyalty program, which is very adapted for the moment. So we will leverage on what we're doing here for Kenya. And then we have a lot of other use cases that we're developing internally using generative AI, but very much around automation and operational efficiency.
Thank you for that. And that leads me also to think a little bit then, because this clearly, I mean, we've seen as customers, we've used Weave and the rewards system that IBL Group has for its customers. But of course, there are other applications that Mauritians use on a daily basis. One of the most popular ones being Mighty Money, of course, and of course, Traffic Watch. In fact, some of our guests may in fact use Traffic Watch a little later this afternoon. But I'm just thinking to myself, Mauritius Telecom, in my opinion, it is the principal backbone, digital backbone of this country. And how is Mauritius Telecom then working with the private sector to enable AI adoption plans and the thinking around how your organization, Mr. Gambadin, can support the private sector, be it in health, education, and in finance, but also ultimately impacting the end user, the customer at the end of the day?
So we want to position ourselves very much as an ecosystem. As an ecosystem where we want to work with entrepreneurs, we want to work with larger companies, we want to work with the medium companies, because what do we have as an asset here, as Mauritius Telecom? So we connect pretty much everybody within the country, right, through telephony, mobile. We connect pretty much every businesses. So if we are, there's lots of, I've been meeting up lately with quite a bit of the entrepreneurial segments, folks that we have. And there were lots of brilliant ideas, but many of them have had issues in terms of deploying, having reach to their customers, right? So we want to partner. We want to be a platform for early stage companies, so that they can leverage on the network of businesses that we have. They can leverage on the B2C segment that we have, and we will be investing in many of these companies. So that's one in terms of positioning ourselves as an ecosystem. The next thing is being non-competitive, or rather with the spirit of competition. So what I've seen here in Mauritius is we tend to work very much in silos. In fact, I would say IBL is probably one of the only handful of companies that are really successful outside of Mauritius. So Singapore, where I've spent most of my time, I spent the past 25 years there. They have been really successful going beyond their shores, because from the government perspective itself, like when businesses go out, they always hunt, like what they call it, they like to call it, they hunt as a pack. So they have like different companies banding in together, and they could be competing locally, but they don't see themselves as, they say the market is out there. And then they forge partnerships, and then they go out. So I think we have this capability here, but for whatever reason, it hasn't been happening. But I think we can mend that, and then we can really have that spirit of collaboration here, so that then we can go out there and then really hunt as a pack as well. So we want to be a facilitator of that. We want Mauritius Telecom to be a platform, number one, for early stage startups, but next, big businesses as well, forging these relationships. And then the third thing is we will be investing, and we are investing very much in terms of skills building. So skills building, not necessarily putting that on the head of educational institutions only, right? But really having practical things that we can put. Right now, there's just sporadic initiatives that we're doing. We're still formulating our actual strategy around it, but I can tell you a few that we have been doing, and that's we've been with the Ministry of ICT as well, and Ministry of Education involved. So we're like in the age of AI students, and we took grade 12. We say these folks could be learning through competition, learning AI through competition. So we launched a national competition. 69 schools signed up, over 500 students. And the idea is we gave them different problem sets, and then we're getting them to solve it. So then internally, then I told to our own folks, we said, then this is where we invest. We invest our own engineers in terms of the training, the mentorship. So there have been different people in our own organization at Mauritius who raised their hands and then they wanted to train. So then there's this guy who got super excited. He got the wrong message. He went to train those 17-year-old people. He gave them like a full-fledged like programming. But then have you heard about vibe coding?
Yeah.
But these days you can actually program, but just by talking English and then building whole applications. And then he came back to me. I was like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Right? Because that was not the point. We wanted to go the basic stuff like ChatGPT a little bit, right? But then he tells me the whole set of people, they were super excited, 70-year-old students. And I'm like, did they really get it? And he's like, yeah, they got it. So now I'm like, okay, let's wait and see. So the results are going to be out. Not the results, but what they actually build are going to be out in a month or also. So I'm looking forward to that. But the thing here is we are dealing with what I call the AI natives. Like for us, AI is like new. But for the young people, this will be like the way the world is. And I think if we push the boundary in this way, we'll be able to move faster. So there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Goodness.
My minute is up again.
It's fascinating to hear the extent to which Mauritius Telecom is supporting on education, not just in terms of the infrastructure, but the knowledge and the skill sets. And that is, I think, very important for us to understand and to work with education institutions and Mauritius Telecom together on this particular area, in addition to things. Honourable Minister, if I may ask you this question, you have a unique 360 perspective, if I may say. You've been a former managing director of technology companies, so you understand the business side of things. You have a technology background, so you understand the tech and the AI itself, and you have expertise in law. And it's very rare that you have such individuals, very rare that you have them reach the position of Minister of ICT in any country. So with that unique perspective, Honourable Minister, how do you see your ministry supporting organizations such as IPL, MT, and the wider private sector as they look to adopt AI for optimization and other purposes?
Sure, Steve. Thank you for this question. The role of the government is to administer, not to operate. We create an enabling environment that will help the private sector establish, grow, flourish, and nurture talent and add to the GDP. So the essential role of the government. We've had some diversions from this principle. In some cases, we're going to avoid it. For example, in health operations, we need to have government hospitals. So that's operation, but belongs to the government. In some sectors, we're going to avoid it. But we are, as a government, working towards building that enabling environment. The blueprint establishes the big plan of how we want to do it. Still, from a high-level perspective, without getting into the details. But what we did not publish is our internal implementation plan. So we have an internal implementation plan. A lot of times people ask me, so the comment that I've received a couple of times is that, the blueprint is ambitious. Of course it has to be ambitious. We can't think small. We have to think big. The country is small, yes, but look what we made of this country in 57 years, right? And we can make it even bigger. And Mauritius is well set to be the largest state when we add our marine resources together. We have no reason to think small. Now, the second remark that I get is this blueprint going to be set in drawers and just remain there? I said, no. This is not what the Ministry of IT is doing now anymore. Documents that we prepare it because we mean the contents of the document. And the blueprint has been prepared, as I communicated once, by public officials themselves. And yesterday we were in a conference talking together, and there was the panelists who asked Vimal around, the public sector, how they are working and the difference that he perceives. And I think the common denominator was the good intention of getting things done. Different kinds of environments. But we have a bunch of very good people in the public sector. And the blueprint is a clear manifestation of the fact to sustain what I'm saying, right? So, and in there, we have looked at several elements of the enabling environment. One of which is the legal framework. So clearly, our legal framework, the way it is currently, is outdated. Section 46 of the ICT Act, after the amendment caused by the case Sigam versus the state, actually it brought that amendment, but we need to have further amendments. We cannot have one part of cybercrime stipulated in the ICT Act and another part stipulated in the Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Act 2021. So we are bringing some sanity to this. Secondly, our Electronic Transactions Act was last updated probably 10, 12 years back. And we are now relooking at the UN CITRO model law for enabling electronic documents to be recognized by customs of different organizations. So this will accelerate trade. Every Mauritian now needs to have an electronic identity. Our mobile numbers now are our identities. This is why we also enabled mobile number portability, at least from an approval, government approval aspect for now. So ultimately, you can actually shift. Giving the same number, you can shift subscribers. Not very happy. But we've got MTEL as well as another operator and enabler too, and we've got another one which is Chile, an oligopolistic market, huh? But having said this, we are creating that enabling environment. So I spoke about the legal side, but there's much more. I'm not talking about all of them, but talking about the electronic identity, we are working on an electronic identity bill so that every Mauritian will now have an electronic identity. And the technology of choice will actually enable recognition of that identity, not just in Mauritius, but globally, right? And to go with that, we are bringing the super app. Does anyone know the name of the super app? Koi. Right. So that's the name of the super app, and we have already floated the RFP for development of that super app. It will have services that people require. We follow the principle of the river of life from cradle to grave. But Vimal will argue saying that we have to look at it from even before birth, and he'll be so right in saying so, because then in the e-health system that we just deployed, we'll actually bring in those types of treatments as well. But the moment a child is born, he is given a unique identification number, UIN. And when the child reaches 18 years of age, the child then receives this national identity card, which is a physical card. But there are questions as to whether we need to already start using this UIN. Because even, our Gen Z at the moment, they also have a unique identifier, right? And do they need to be able to use that for authentication purposes? A question that needs to be answered. But having said that, the electronic identity bill will actually give an electronic identity so that we can transact in the cyberspace. So these are some of the changes in legislation. With regards to infrastructure, we have also floated an RFI for establishing a digital public infrastructure, which will have the GPUs as well. And either we use the GPUs of Mauritius Telecom as a supplier, we establish our own, or we'll see how that will be done, but I'm sure we'll be able to compose the right model. Because we want to work with the private sector. This is also part of enablement. We want to have our digital sovereignty preserved. And talking about digital sovereignty, I'm very sensitive to this, and I'll tell you why. So we know our social media environment, how it is today. We have our freedom of expression, but we also have the right to privacy. Both rights are qualified rights, they're not absolute rights, which implies that these rights can be curtailed, they can be displaced in case of extreme conditions, right? Like an attack, terrorism, like what we had for COVID. The freedom of movement was curtailed, and we all know why, and that was allowed by way of the Constitution. So we have the freedom of expression, we also have the right to privacy, and we have to strike the right balance between the two. Now, Do we see that happening today in our digital space? No, clearly no. Right? People need to be more responsible around how they are using that. And so we are in discussion with the global platform providers as to the responsibility and the accountability that they have, because they are drawing revenues from this market. So many people are boosting, so many companies are boosting on some social media. We've got others where people are actually exposing their products. And those advertisements that they're doing are very effective. You see 35,000 views, 50,000 views that are coming up from them. And they continue doing it means those boosts that they are doing is actually drawing additional revenue for them and revenue for the platform providers too. And here comes my business side, right, of looking at it. Therefore, there are revenues that are being drawn, which automatically sets an accountability on their shoulders. But when we want to ask them to take down certain posts, which could be sensitive to the social stability of our country, because we live unity in diversity. We are very diverse in terms of the origins of where we come from. And we have been able to establish a very stable and peaceful society. And we need to nurture that. We need to preserve it. And we cannot let social media technology come and disturb that. Therefore, the providers of those platforms have to assume their responsibility. And I'm very clear on this. Therefore, their regulations should not apply in our jurisdiction. But today it is applying. Hence, our digital sovereignty, and we need to preserve our digital sovereignty. Therefore, we want to have legislations or agreements with them whereby they actually do respond positively to the legal provisions of our jurisdiction. Right? So this way, the cyberspace will become a cleaner space. We'll be able to protect our children better. Now, you've seen this game of self-mutilation that is happening. And it's a death challenge, right? By the end, it's unavoidable. It's death, right? And young people get attracted by them, especially those young people who are vulnerable as a person, right? So we need to also make sure that we're able to protect our children. And as we sit here, as all of us sitting here now, we don't know whom our children may be speaking to, may be talking to, what may be going on in the minds of our children, and what is the next step they're going to take as part of that conversation, as a result of that conversation. We need to be well aware. And parents who actually establish all rules in the house, don't use foul language. Yes. And the dad, after having said that, he goes onto Facebook, GGT, you know, or whatever. So what is this, right? We need to assume our responsibility, and we need to have the same rules applying everywhere. So this is why we are bringing changes in the legislation. We are establishing the right infrastructure. And I will conclude on this one. Over and above, the innovation system that we need to establish, I don't want to take too much of time here, but there are so many things I want to tell. But I will stick to what this forum expects me to talk about, right? Therefore, this digital sustainability is one of the pillars that we are working on. Whether you want it or not, whether you accept it or not, digital divide is a reality in our country. And if you speak with my good friend Vimal, he can tell you that, around 5,000 or 2,000 computers and laptops are hitting end of life. And what do we do with them? And just in government, 15,000 computers will be coming to end of life. What do we do with them? Actually, we can recirculate them after some kind of refurbishment in the economy, which means that we are reducing our digital footprint. We are giving opportunities to more people to have access to digital technologies. And we want to be able to do that. It's also part of how we are helping, not just the private sector, obviously, but also the society at large. And I'd like to stop on this one, although I'll continue. Thank you.
No, thank you, Honourable Minister. And that leads me very nicely, in fact, into my next round of questions, which is to you now, Mrs. Nabab Singh Jeshan, which is really around how organisations such as IBL and the private sector as a whole can actually work with government on enablement, but also on some of these initiatives that we've been hearing the Honourable Minister speak about. So my question is, how can IBL and private sector generally partner with government, academia, startups, to build these AI capabilities, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's around working with government on legislation, or even this digital divide and supporting in that particular space?
So I think that the work has already started years ago. I mean, we have a partnership with ALU for few years now. We are onboarding a number of interns, and in my team itself, and not only ANU but other universities, UM, Middlesex, and many others. And in my team itself, we've onboarded students from the second year of their degree, and now they're employed. I mean, Namdi is in the room. He's from ALU. He's a cybersecurity analyst in the team. So the partnership is there, but we want to do much more. I went to see the Minister last week after digesting his blueprint, and we convened that we would meet a few weeks later. I told him, I mean, we're really willing to collaborate on national projects. We have teams in IBL, and they all know that we have national challenges ahead. We all know that if we don't address the digital divide, if we don't address themes like digital sovereignty and data, it affects everyone. So we really want to collaborate. And I think we need to find this, you know, whether it's a laboratory, a place where we can get together to address all this, but with objectives. I think Mauritius has a few advantages in a few sectors, like, you know, the port, logistics. This is an area where we really need to modernize. Ocean, you mentioned ocean. This is a very good opportunity for us to do projects around AI and climate. So we really need to work and put our heads together to really identify the projects where Mauritius will make a difference. And we create and test those technology models where we can export. So, and I really think that we need global institutions as well to help us as well, whether it's academia or, you know, the big techs, because they are willing to help. Of course, they are looking for business as well, but we already use them today, so they're very willing to help and partner. So I think we are ready to collaborate. We need to find the forum.
Thank you. And Mr. Govidim, a sort of similar question. You've already mentioned some of the recent initiatives that Mauritius Telecom has taken in terms of education. I don't think there's anything you'd like to add to that. I mean, in terms of the experiences that you've had so far, you mentioned clearly the upskilling attempt, and there was a slight misunderstanding, shall we say. But what other ventures do you see or opportunities do you see for Mauritius Telecom in terms of helping to bridge this digital divide?
Yeah, so probably I'll stick to education itself. So, like I mentioned, so I want to see us at Mauritius Telecom more as an enabler, more as a partner, as an ecosystem. So, with that, then I don't see ourselves like building lots of solutions, but there will be a few solutions that we will be building ourselves, and some of which have like national mandates, I would say, that goes beyond what I would call business is all about. So one thing that I'm having really at heart myself, and I'm driving it myself at this point in time, is a platform. It's basically the dream here is, what if we can give every child in Mauritius a personal tutor, a personal AI tutor, right? That is accessible anytime, anywhere, right? That maybe, I don't know, that maybe it's free, or is free for at least, at the very least, a group of people who need it, or very cheap. So we have gone beyond concept. We call this, our brand is also Mighty. So we call it Mighty GPT. So we have already built that. And we have run a pilot project in Rodrigues. So we see Mauritius is small, Rodrigues is even smaller. It's been easier to deploy that in schools over there. And it's been already like 3 months now since we deployed that at an experimental stage in Rodrigues, with lots of really good feedback. And I think we're still at the beginning of that. And now we're in the phase of formalizing a partnership with the ministries here. And here I'm talking about the Ministry of ICT and Education. And that's the hardest part, actually. We're really locking that in. And the idea is we will use the whole of 2026 to do pilot around this in at the very least 10 schools, secondary schools. We're going to start there in primary schools in Mauritius. And why 2026? Because we want to use the whole year to really measure the effectiveness of what these tools are doing. Because the truth is, nobody knows, right? What about the safety? What about the guardrails that we need to put into place for kids, for teachers? But already we can see lots of value that educators, educational institutions will be able to have, because suddenly you'll be able to get insights in terms of what questions are students asking, what are the areas of weaknesses, but then again, what are the areas of strengths, right? When we ran the pilot in Rodrigues, we were already seeing some beautiful use cases where, like, for example, for learning physics. So some of the folks were just learning physics in Creole for the very first time. You can ask in Creole, and then it's explaining to you physics concepts in Creole, right? But all of this is now possible, right? And then where this AI tutor is super patient with you, you can keep on asking questions over and over again, unlike us parents. After the second time, we run out of patience with our own kids. I know that for sure, what myself. So then by 2027, maybe, who knows, we might be the very first country in the world to deploy, to give every child a personal tutor. And why I say first country in the world, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, we're going to be the second or third. Doesn't matter, right? Again, because we're small, and I think we can. And the idea here is not just to have that claim to be the first. We want to do it safely. And with that, we're partnering with some research organizations. We're yet to finalize that. It could be University of Mauritius, where we want to study that empirically also. So what is that meaning from a pedagogy perspective? What is that meaning for teachers? Because already you can see who will be against this, right? Those who give tuitions. It's a 4 billion rupees business to do, right? So we're doing this.
So we're going to see some significant disruption in the private tuition business potentially. And Honourable Minister, if I may come to you on this, because you have on numerous occasions mentioned this digital divide issue, and I wanted to ask you, what do you believe needs to be, and what do you think government will put in place in order to address some of these digital divide concerns? Because it's not just the divide within Mauritius now, but it's also the divide that exists across the continent. Our CEO of ALCHE earlier mentioned the numbers of young people going to university in the continent, and the divide that will exist between our countries in Africa and the US and China. As we've already seen in China, they have, in the space of the year, the past year, introduced AI education into the K-12 curricula. And youngsters there will be learning about algorithms and LLMs. So I'd love to get some of your thoughts into what we can do to address this.
Sure. I think there always will be some kind of a digital divide. Let's make no mistake about it. There will always be. Because, if we look around in this room, there can be some iPhones 16. Do we have 17 already?
Coming up this week.
Right? 17.
Next week.
Yeah, I'm running an iPhone, rather older model. Therefore, there is a digital divide between myself and this other person who's got the next iPhone, and the digital divide between myself and the person who's got a 2 series older iPhone. So digital divide to me is the difference between those who have access to technology and those who don't. Between nations, there always will be. And how well we'll be connected to it will be a function of the GDP per capita, right? Clearly. Therefore, we will suffer from that, whether we want it or not. But the aim of the government is to reduce that, to mitigate it to a maximum. Now, how can we do it? The circular economy is one of them. Second one is the access to technology too. So as we speak about the blueprint, and as we said that this is not a document that will remain in the drawer, I can already refer to some software applications and services that we've deployed already. Maybe out of this room, I can ask you, how many of you are now using the online system to renew your vehicle road tax, right? July, August, we've had 56% of the vehicle renewals for road tax done online, as opposed to less than 10% earlier. Because we reviewed the system, and then there's one driving principle saying that tell us only once, which means that once you've given the document to the government, why does he have to ask you for the same document over and over again? That is frustrating, just like how we get frustrated by the same questions asked by our kids. Likewise, when the government asks us the same questions several times, we get frustrated. Therefore, what do? We want to make that document accessible, and this also demands an exchange of documents within government. So we are establishing the data management office within the Prime Minister's office, which will enable exchange of documents based on some legislations that we will define. And we have to also protect that data and ensure that there is resilience in accessibility to that data, for that data. Resilience also for all the different critical infrastructures of the country, like the broadcasting stations, radio, TV, like the ports, and several others, and hospitals and banks. So for the banks, we already have the regulations of the Central Bank of Mauritius, so fair enough. But for others, we don't. Therefore, we need to ensure that their services remain available. We're establishing what we call as the Cyber Resilience and Cyber Security Agency as well to look into this matter. But this is the future. Let's look at what we've done already. I mentioned the payment of the road tax. We have deployed the e-health system. The e-health system is now enabling people to access that technology. So there we go. We reduce the digital divide further again. And by way of that, we're also giving an app to people which they can use to register themselves as patients. And this time, they don't have to enter all the data. Their data is being fetched from the central population database. That was not the case earlier. And if we do a very simple exercise here, we'll see we'll put the problem into perspective. And I'll do that very quickly. I call that an acid test. Jerome, you've been to which school in Mauritius?
High school?
Yeah.
St. Joseph's.
St. Joseph's College. Me too, actually. So our data is there, right? Our data is there. You know, actually, I went to St. Joseph for independence celebrations, and they actually gave me a picture of my first registration as a student way back in 1984. Right. So your data is there. You have a bank. Don't tell me which bank, but your bank account details. Your data is there. You have a driving license. Your data is with the driving license department. Have you ever paid fine? Yes, your data is with the judiciary guys. Your data sits with the ALU, isn't it? Your data sits with the Passport and Immigration Office. You hold a passport. So if we do that, there are at least 20 spots where your data is being stored. And with certainty, we can say that that data is not up to date. Look at one of the provisions of the Data Protection Act. It says that the government has the responsibility to ensure that all data captured is always maintained up to date. And your data rights stipulate that you have the right to go and verify it. But we don't do that, obviously. We don't want to make it difficult. But the bottom line is that we have established the Citizen Data Hub, and all government systems will now consume data from there. And for the private sector as well, when they want to do their eKYC, they can refer to that upon some kind of permission that we'll obtain from the Data Protection Commissioner's office. So we've deployed that as well now to enhance access to technology. We've opened our space for lower Earth orbit satellites. So earlier we had to only use probably Intelsat or the likes of it, which had a high latency and high cost. But now we can actually have redundancy in connectivity by using this lower Earth orbit satellites. And we will still be able to apply our own access policies to that, even if it is being deployed, not directly through the ISPs in Mauritius, but indirectly through the ISPs, right, business-wise. So these are some of the things that we've done, and there are a few more that are in the pipeline, which will generate quick results. So all these applications put together, Stephen, they actually reduce the digital divide, and that reduction will be catalyzed further by the circular migration project that we have been speaking about. Yeah.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. And since the Honourable Minister asked a question of the audience, I should also inform the audience that they have the opportunity to ask questions as well. Shortly, we present a QR code here. So if you would like to ask a question, we'll be able to just take one or two given the time available. You scan the QR code, please, and submit a question if you would like to ask one. And we are now moving on to the final round of questions. As we wrap up, I'd like you now each to consider the next sort of 5 to 10 years. And as we think of those 5 to 10 years, what the future could look like with AI enabling government services, Mauritius Telecom, IBL, and other organizations. Now, I'm hoping that that future doesn't look like the one that is predicted in the Terminator movies, and that we do not see Skynet become a reality. But what are the real opportunities, the everyday AI that Sunak speaks of, that you can see materializing within the next 5 to 10 years? Unless, of course, you do believe that Skynet is indeed a possibility. And I'll begin, first of all, with Mrs. Nabab Singh Jetson.
Yeah, it's a very tough one. In 5, 10 years, it's very difficult to. But I mean, based on my experience for 20 years doing digital transformation, and actually my first transformation project was in Mauritius Telecom, moving from fiber to broadband, moving from just internet to TV. I think and transformation takes time because you need to bring the people along with you. Otherwise, it's a waste of time spending $1 million in projects where you don't bring people along. So there's a lot of work, and we've been doing a lot of work in terms of AI literacy in IBL, but we need to continue doing more. So with digital transformation before the era of AI, we used to train a lot of people, but now there's another shift again. So we're still figuring out how do we take people along the way. So I definitely think the future is humans who will continue manage the technology, but they need to understand what's happening with the AI world today. So in our businesses, we have to continue training people and make them understand, kind of unlearn and relearn, because they've been operating business processes for some time. We are digitalizing them and probably improving the processes with systems that we put in place. But AI is another shift in terms of how you think of operating business processes going forward. So, my vision of the future, because we are a lot into customer service with the retail sector. So, customers have to manage their data. It's their data, but they have to have the choice of getting, highly personalized offers when they go into supermarkets, and dynamic pricing as well is something that we want to look at. In warehouses, we want inventories to be done by drones going forward, but still managed by people. I don't think we'll get to the point where we will have warehouses like Amazon. I think we will have a kind of semi-automated warehouse, and these are the kinds of things that I think will happen in the future. And all this really also depends on foundation platforms that we put in place. So right now we're working a lot on putting data foundation in place, whether it's governance, but also the actual infrastructure, data warehouses. So my vision is that, in 5-10 years' time, we have a Pan-African data platform within IBL, and we can leverage on that data for different use cases. Executives, having dashboards, and they can actually do business planning and scenario modeling. When we expand in new markets, we can actually use AI to, inform us of where we need to open branches. So these kinds of things, I hope, will happen in the future.
So, again, really enabling data-driven decision-making at the heart of your organization. Thank you so much for your response. And I'll pass over now to Mr. Ganadin for your response to the question.
You know, we're currently working on this formally, so I don't have the answer right now. I'm sorry. In 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, I'll know exactly what happens in campaigns. We're currently literally working on this as a formal exercise internally. Have you guys heard about Sora 2? Sora, the video generating tool. So there's Sora 2, version number 2, that has just been released a few days ago. You will see that hit the news. It will be on YouTube, it will be on TikTok, and you will see the quality of videos, your own videos. You'll be able to put yourself on the moon, for example, right? High fidelity. That's already happening today, right? And we're talking about like 10 years time. We're going to see the rise, or we're going to be living through the rise more than ever of fake news. Right? So what will be real, right? You wouldn't be able to know. I'm talking about like what a personal tutor for everybody, every child. We will have achieved that obviously already. So we're going to be living through an age, and that's for sure, an age of abundance. So I think the age of abundance is coming. And at the same time, it's scary because what's happening is, if you're intelligent today, you come to ALU, you get your degree. It's like you'll succeed in life, right? You get a good job. But in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, 5 years' time, will that be the case? Right? You can get a business plan done already now, right? So we've outsourced the brain now. So very soon, already we're dealing with in our pocket with something that is with a PhD level information here, readily accessible for whatever you're talking about. It's going to become even more intelligent over the next 3 years. Forget about 10 years. 3 years is going to be even more intelligent. Today, the technology is the worst that we're seeing. So I think. Maybe that's more my hope, that Mauritius will be a great place to live. Mauritius will be a great place to do business. Mauritius will be a place where we facilitate all sorts of transactions seamlessly, financial and level of business, hospitality. Maybe we bring back a smile when we go to the restaurant, when we go to the hotels, because those are gone these days. So, because people are going to be craving for experiences, people are going to be craving for a human touch. People are going to be craving for meetups like this. So I hope we can build our society towards becoming one where you love living here. So I've spent 25 years, like I said, in Singapore. So my kids were born there. So I've got 2 daughters, 11 and 13. So I joke with them. I'm like, why don't we go back to Singapore? They're like, are you crazy? So they love it here, right? It's a great place to live. So sometimes we forget it, right? When we see all the stuff in the news, right? But yeah, hopefully together then we can build such a society.
Thank you, Mr. Gagarin. And Honourable Minister, your vision for the next few years in Mauritius, but also Africa.
I think we should ask agentic AI to start paying taxes. Because they will be doing a lot of the jobs that we are currently doing today, and then will not be working. And who pays taxes then? And who pays the pensions? Let me not talk. But we have started looking into doing data-driven policy analysis. Life will become better. I tell you what. We all know that, and we're talking about that over coffee. Mauritius is number 1 globally in terms of diabetic patients, right? And why does that arise? It arises out of food habits, mainly. Of course, there's a genetic parameter as well into the equation, but food habits. Mauritians suffer a lot from heart diseases. There are at least 20,000 patients of cancer in Mauritius, right? So there are several parameters that impact this state of our health. Now, we'll be spending millions in doing heart operations and putting in stents, right? And each one of them is costing around 200,000 rupees. Okay. Now, instead of looking at, addressing this problem of the operations that is more of curative, data-driven policy analysis will help with preventive. So we go back with AI, trying to analyze and understand the food habits and making projections as to what reductions we can bring in the number of heart disease cases and what impact it can have on our budget savings, all while enhancing the quality of lives of people. So this is one use case. We've got several others. I think our kids as well will become experts in prompt engineering rather than their own topic of study. And as Vimal pointed out, we've been outsourcing the brain, but we also need to have mechanisms that will ensure that the brains that we keep within us continue growing. But I really see that the level of smartness of people will go up. Already we can see that with our Gen Z. If you're dealing with Gen Z, right, it's at times difficult to win arguments with them. They're so well informed. Then they're not just spending time playing games on their computers. There are some cases like that, or on their mobile phones. But kids are getting smarter. It is sad that we do not have as many kids as we used to have earlier on because of the aging population and the reduction in the birth rates. But now, this is a matter of policy that the government will look into, but we are being urged now to have these types of policies, and this will have an impact in 5-10 years' time. So without getting into the minute details of what life will look like from a high-level perspective, obviously, we are not people who would, we are not voyant, as we say it, right? But we can at least from the current technology direction get an indication of what life could look like. Certainly we'll not have autonomous cars in Mauritius in 10 years. We may not have flying cars in 10 years, or probably maybe, right? we never know. But we are already 100% fibered in this country. IoT networks will start growing more. We will be able to know in which region, which plant, in which part of which time of the year needs to be grown so that we can have an optimal throughput of the overall system. Food safety and food security will get better. So the SDGs, actually we are not doing too bad with our SDGs, the UN SDGs. We'll be getting closer to those SDGs. So overall, life will become better. Whether it will be more expensive or less, I will not comment on that. We are a small country. Our balance of trade is negative. We need to work on that balance of trade to try to somehow bring some better sanity to it. Things will get probably cheaper back then. But certainly in terms of the level of adoption of technology, we will be much ahead. And our productivity, not just as a worker, but as an individual, will increase. Because take it from me, a person not using AI today will be overtaken by other persons. A company not using AI will be overtaken, so will a nation. Therefore, we need to have a future-ready nation. And we're talking about an AI-ready nation. So we need to have an AI-aware nation, first of all, and then an AI-ready nation. So I can probably just talk quickly about what we are planning on doing. We are planning to release a book on AI, which will talk to the grassroots people, to explain to them what AI is, what are the good sides and the flip sides of AI, and how do we actually save ourselves or protect ourselves from the negative impact of misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation. So those types of videos that we see today, they can create havoc in our society if we do not have the right kind of governing framework for the use of AI or generative AI. Maybe we can think of something like, a mandatory seal on an AI-generated media item that is published. Because if a video is published, and we have an appetite for that still. When we see something, right, it goes viral within seconds, right? I really think that there might need to be some kind of a legal obligation to specify that a media element, whether it is generated or not generated, and who the author is. That is all the more, it's even more important, who the author is. So we do not take the public the people, the nation into a negative direction. We have to protect our people. We have to protect the forthcoming generations. Technology will be much more ubiquitous than it is now, as we said. So this is what I can say for now.
Thank you all.
I would also like to thank also our panelists as well for their insights they have shared with us. I will take just one of the questions that we've had from the audience in the interest of time, and that question is to the Honourable Minister. What is one policy or an example of a policy being considered to ensure data protection, cybersecurity, and ethical use of AI in public services?
Right. So these are three separate domains, by the way. So data security, cybersecurity, and the ethics side. I think the ethics side is very, very important, especially when we're talking about AI as well. For AI, we need data. Volume, variety, and velocity. When we have a combination of those, we can avoid data bias as well. But in the public service, we have the Data Protection Act, which obligates people to play within a certain framework when it concerns personal data, PII. So it's good to know that the Data Protection Act is not concerned with business data. It's concerned with personal data. In the public service, we have a lot of progress to be made. There may still be cases where users are sharing their IDs and passwords, okay? And this, to us, is not acceptable practice anymore. So there are policies that we have brought already with regards to usage of software systems or even usage of the internet. But I think there has to be more stringent policies when it comes to usage of AI. If a HR person wants to type a promotion letter for another employee and all details are given in, let's say, ChatGPT, which generates a beautiful and sweet letter, but while doing so, the employee has already compromised the confidentiality of that data, which probably he doesn't realize, right? But we have guidelines for the usage of AI. And these guidelines evolve over time. Right, so there is no one specific policy per se, and these are, yes, they are in form of policy, but they are also in form of legislations or regulations which have obviously legislative powers.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for your insightful response there. And on that note, I'd like to thank all of our panellists once again for sharing their perspectives on the thoughtful questions also that were received from the audience that we didn't have time to go through all of them, unfortunately, but I believe there may be an opportunity later for them to do that. And it's clear from this discussion that AI brings both opportunities but also responsibilities. And that Mauritius has a critical role to play in this space, not only shaping how that transformation takes place here in Mauritius, but beyond as well. So please join me in thanking our distinguished panel.
If you allow me to step in.
I'd like to congratulate the team of ALU under the leadership of Mr. Sanasi here for having organized this forum, because we do not have these kinds of forums within academic institutions organized enough. So big congratulations to you and on everything.
And with that, I hand the floor back to our MC, Jerome.
All right, thank you very much to our distinguished panelists, Honourable Minister, Mr. Gangadin, and Dia, might I say, and Dr. Stephen Nyken for moderating our panel. To officially close today's panel discussion, I have the pleasure of inviting our President of the Student Representative Council, Yahya Bouhaik.
Thank you very much, Jerome. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of this thought-provoking panel. On behalf of the Africa Leadership College of Higher Education and the Student Representative Council, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed panelists, Dr. the Honorable Avinash Ramtuha, Mr. Vimal Gangadin, and Ms. Dia Nawab Singh Chechan, and our moderator, Dr. Stephen Niken, for sharing their valuable insights, perspectives, and vision with us today. It's not every day we get to learn directly from the people shaping the future of technology, policy, and innovation. And trust me, I'm sure a lot of you have your notebooks full today. What we've heard is powerful. The decisions being made in boardrooms, ministries, and innovation labs are already shaping how we'll study, how we'll work, and how opportunities will reach people who've too often been left out. Strong digital foundation and thoughtful regulation are building the launchpad for ideas that can change lives. And when the public and private worlds decide to work together, the solutions we can unlock are bigger than any one institution, company, or ministry. And here's the part that excites me the most. For many of us still in lecture halls or pulling all-nighters on projects, this story isn't being written so far away. It's right here. We're part of it. The tools are in our hands, the challenges are right in front of us, and the next wave of innovation might actually start from a dorm room Wi-Fi. As we look forward, it's clear that the future of innovation in Africa won't just be about the tools we build, but about the values we build into them. I'm talking about fairness, access, trust, and impact. And if we get those right, like our Dean Jeremy says, get the basics right. If we get those right, what starts as a small project in Mauritius might ripple its effect or ripple its impact across the whole continent. I'm talking about lives from Kigali to Casablanca, from Cape Town to Lagos, all over the continent. Before we close, a huge thank you once again to our panelists, distinguished guests, our CEO and staff, moderators, project managers, and of course, students, and everyone who worked behind the scenes to make today possible. I'd now like to invite my fellow SRC members to present tokens of appreciation to our distinguished guests. Please will help me welcome Ms. Aman with a gift to Dr. the Honorable Avinash Rabdoha. And Ms. Elera with a gift to Mr. Vimal Likangali. And myself with a gift to Ms. Diana Babsing Chicha. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yahya. We now invite our distinguished panelists for a short photo session and some interviews near the backdrop, which is outside. And we ask in the meantime that everyone remains seated as our panelists are being guided towards that designated areas by our ushers. Members of the press, obviously, you're also very welcome to accompany them for coverage. There will be obviously an area for photos as well as interviews. Meanwhile, we encourage you to take a moment to fill out the feedback form, which will appear on your screen. And once the photo session concludes, we'll take a moment and ushers may guide you outside.